It wasn't like this before liberals radically liberalized drugs. We know what they did. They passed C5 to allow traffickers to serve their sentences in their living rooms. They eliminated mandatory prison time. They opened up our ports and our borders. 99% of the shipping containers that enter our country, 99% of those shipping containers come in without any inspection at all. This is something that looks like an episode of Breaking Bad. But this is not happening in New Mexico in a TV drama. It is happening here in Canada, real life, right now. Imagine if the town of Brandon were to vanish, that its 50,000 people suddenly died. That is the size and scope of the fentanyl overdose crisis in the last 9 years of the Carney-Trudeau Liberals. A small, beautiful city like Brandon has vanished from our lives. Since 2016, 50,000 Canadians have died of overdoses to opioids, 9 in 10 of whom have died as a result of fentanyl. More Canadians have died of opioid overdoses in the last 9 years than died fighting for Canada in the Second World War. They are real people. Brothers, sisters, sons, daughters, fathers, mothers, friends, and thousands more are still suffering. Countless of them are in homeless encampments, living in the hell of addiction and homelessness. It wasn't like this before liberals radically liberalized drugs. We know what they did. They passed C5 to allow traffickers to serve their sentences in their living rooms. They eliminated mandatory prison time. They opened up our ports and our borders. 99% of the shipping containers that enter our country, 99% of those shipping containers come in without any inspection at all after 9 years of the Carney-Trudeau Liberals. Super labs in Canada synthesize using precursor chemical ingredients that come into Canada from China and Mexico through our open border policy. But it's not happening. This is something that looks like an episode of Breaking Bad. But this is not happening in New Mexico in a TV drama. It is happening here in Canada, real life, right now. In November of 2024, police dismantled what they described as the largest, most sophisticated illicit drug super lab in the country in Falkland, British Columbia. One of the accused was out of jail after earlier convictions. Police said they seized 54 kilograms of fentanyl. Now, that might not seem like a lot until you realize that it just takes 2 milligrams to kill a human being. That means there was enough finished fentanyl to kill 27 million people. Police found enough ingredients to make enough fentanyl to kill 95 million people. That's twice the population of Canada. Police also found 390 kilograms of methamphetamine, small explosives, ammunition, silencers, high-capacity magazines, body armor, $500,000 in cash, and 89 firearms, many of which were, quote, loaded and ready to be used. Days earlier, police discovered a super lab in Langley, BC, that they say was capable of producing multiple kilograms of fentanyl on a weekly basis. A Government of Canada report confirmed, and I quote, seizures of Canada-sourced fentanyl in places like the US and Australia suggest that the domestic production of fentanyl is likely exceeding the domestic demand and that Canada is now a source and transit country for fentanyl to some markets. The number of seizures of fentanyl at the Canada-US border more than tripled between 2023 and 2024, rising from 239,000 doses to 839 doses. How did this happen? They passed C5, which eliminated mandatory jail time and brought in house arrest, allowing fentanyl dealers to do their time in their living room while watching Netflix or playing Grand Theft Auto. The Falkland Super Lab that police discovered had ties to transnational criminal networks that span Mexico all the way to China. They are killing our people and many more in other countries, which is now endangering the trade with our closest ally. President Trump has threatened to tariff Canada because of what he says is lethal drug flows. But whether or not we agree with him should not matter. It should not take a foreign leader to get the Liberals to wake up to the drug crisis that they have caused here at home. It should have been enough that we lost 50,000 of our people. We should crack down on drugs, not to please President Trump, but to ensure that not one more mother has to bury her face in her hands on learning that her son died of an overdose in a back alley somewhere.